Hi, this is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert. And I am here on my podcast, The Morning Mood. And we are back with a greatest lesson with Derreck Travers from Amazon. So, Derreck and I met at Amazon in 2007. And you are currently with,
Yeah, and with a company called Smart Cargo, we support other airlines around the world in offering small parcel delivery services.
oh, excellent. Very cool. So when we were together at Amazon, we were both in worldwide transportation together, and you were working on some of the early, and we may get into this later in an architect series, some of the early, very early last mile delivery with couriers, correct?
Yeah, that as well as on the truckload side, transferring inventory from our different fulfillment centers.
The delayed allocation piece, which was huge. That is actually a really big story. We're going to talk about that one too, because that really changed an industry with moving inventory around for order optimization.
It definitely saved a program, let's just say, within Amazon back.
It saved a little bit of money, but we'll get into that deep dive later. Today, we really want to get into what is the greatest lesson you have learned and how did you learn it? Because there's always a good story with it. And how have you applied it to success?
Yeah, I think quite often you'll hear people like when they go to school, they'll never pick up a book again because they studied and crammed so much. The last thing they ever want to do is study again. And I think sometimes we'll hear this once in a while from the self improvement gurus out there about never stop being a student. But
Yeah.
for myself, what's interesting is that I started working when I was pretty young. And just because of personal situations in my life, I didn't go to college. So
Hmm.
I actually had to like teach and learn for myself everything. And so I was really to be around some great people and was able to watch and observe what they did. But I think for me, probably one of the most important lessons, if I sit back and reflect on my career so far, is that I've never stopped being a student. So,
Yes.
yeah, a good example is, Amazon's pretty famous. When we met at Amazon, we had those leadership principles, I don't know, 12 or 13 or however many they were.
They were
And
like 8 when I started, by the way.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. They were like 8 when I started and they just kept adding them. Like, I don't know why, how many there are now, but there were 8.
Well, something that I did that probably laid the foundation for the second half of my career, where every morning I would take one of the leadership principles and I would read it. So we were using, was it Microsoft Outlook for emails and calendars and all that kind of stuff. I actually created a reoccurring task or to do for each individual leadership principle. And so if there were 8 at the time, when I go through one day, it would repeat again, 8 business days later. Took like maybe 5 minutes, but I would do that every single day. So 14 years at Amazon, it kind of the repetition kind of hit home into your mind. And then eventually what would happen is that expanded to where other books that I would read, quite often the chapters would have summaries with bullet points. I would do the same thing. So if I look at my collection, I still do this today. If I look at my collection, I probably go through each one once every, I'm going to say roughly 18 months. So if I go to like my Google to do app or whatever, I probably have like 180 of these in a special category. But it was the repetition and reading it over and over and over again for many, many years that helped lay down the foundation to how I operate or like within my professional DNA, that it becomes second nature. And I'm actually quite surprised, especially the last couple of years, where I've been in situations where we're in a meeting or a discussion or conducting a one-on-one with one of my team members, and then I'll just say something. And the second it leaves my mouth, I stop and think like, wow, that was brilliant. Where did that ever come from? I'm so embedded into your DNA that you're going to think any different about it. And I
It
think
does.
for me, 70% of the world learn by doing or by observing. And
Yeah.
reoccurring repetition that was great. I'm probably not smart enough to read it one time and then like embrace it in my life and it becomes part of the way that I act or behave. But For me, that was really, really helpful.
So it was the greatest lesson was just continuing to learn.
Don't
Eh,
ever,
n
ever,
Never stop learning. I
absolutely.
actually think
I'm
Go ahead.
shocked today about how many people, after they've, especially when you start getting closer to my age and stuff, where people just like, they're just not interested. If anything, they're
They said no.
more interested in just getting by.
Yeah,
And
not learning anything new.
another good example, like I worked at Saks Off Fifth for a few years, and leading up to that, I never really had a lot of experience in finance.
Mhm.
And then when I joined Saks Off Fifth, I mean, literally thrown off the deep end of the pool, I had to start understanding the P&L and
Yeah.
finances and stuff. And I really didn't know what to do. And so
Mhm.
just kind of watch YouTube videos or do different things to teach myself and plug away at it. And it's interesting. I think Steve Jobs had said something once where if you take any subject and you read just two books about it, you probably will know more about that subject than most people in the world. So if you think of like effort, it doesn't take a lot of effort.
To learn something new.
And so that's why I did. Now, look, don't get me wrong. Like I will never be a CFO of a company. I
Yeah.
will never be, have like those big, high level responsibilities. But, throw me into a team with I manage, I'm more than confident in managing a P&L, managing expenses, payments, all those different pieces.
Oh,
But it's
yeah, no,
because I never stop learning. I never stop to
because you
say,
never stop learning
this is uncomfortable. I'm not interested in this. I only do this one thing.
that I know.
And
So
it's
when
it's not that
I
hard.
started at Amazon, I don't have a BS. Like, I have a BA. I have a bachelor's of art. I never took any business classes. I didn't know anything about finance. So I was kind of in a similar position you were. My skill set when I started at Amazon was my customs compliance background. That's what I was hired for. But I was not equipped to write an OP1 document, to build a P&L, to do any of that shit. Like, I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. In fact, I remember building a P&L, and then showing it to the finance team, and they were like, "We'll take care of this. Thank you for trying. It's very cute. We'll put it on the refrigerator at home." It was like, I mean, it was pretty basic, right? But I didn't know about all of the nuances of a P&L. I like gross. This is how many my people cost. This is how much my supplies cost. This is I was pretty basic with it. So, the learning piece at Amazon, I think was essential for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about it too, I think what is it? The average tenure of someone at Amazon might be a little bit more than 2 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of that probably has to do with their stock grants and all that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of it too has to do with people just they stop wanting to learn. And
Yeah, it's a high pressure environment. The other thing, and we're talking about the Amazon principle, always be learning. The other principle that I learned at Amazon, well, that's related to it, was there is no no. There's always a solution.
yeah, I remember we talked about that.
Yeah. You cannot say no.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? I think some people think of that as like blind obedience or like following a cult or whatever. I think really the approach is more about with the information you have today, it may not seem possible or may not seem practical, but by um, digging into it a little bit deeper, getting different viewpoints,
Yep.
uh, being really, it actually leads back to another principle that they have about, always being right. A lot of people think being right is that you're the smartest guy ever and you never make a wrong decision. That's not it at all. It's a
Mm-mm.
gathering inputs. And as you get new information, actually having the courage to change your mind, put your ego aside. And
Yes.
when we say like there's some such thing as no, might be not right now, but later on as conditions change or new information,
Change.
it could.
Right. Yeah. And from a compliance point of view, what that started to look like for me was, well, so my directive that I got from Mike McKenna, because I got called out on this, was I had to provide 3 options for everything. And so the options could literally be, we can do this and everyone will die.
Yeah, could be an option.
Option 2 could be, we can do this and we tweak it and only managers die. And option 3 can be we spend a whole bunch of money and wait 4 years and nobody dies. But the answer could not be no.
Yeah.
That was the key. It may not be a good choice, but it can't be no.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. And the learning, we're talking about always be learning. I think that's also another leadership trait. Great leaders never stop learning.
Yeah, I think that's important too. In fact, it's interesting if you look at Amazon, especially those that have achieved those really high levels.
High levels.
They started out as maybe in one particular function.
Yeah.
There's a guy by the name of Akash, and
Mm.
he started out as an engineer, and like
Yeah.
that guy is absolutely amazing. As far as like being like a CEO, I'm not sure if he's a CEO or chief operating officer for 3PL, but like there's someone that's if you look chart his course at Amazon, I mean he's done a lot of different things, but it's the same thing. I don't know him very well. I just know him from watching from a distance, but
Yeah.
I don't think he was the type of person that would never stop learning.
Yeah. Who would always learn. And I think that, to be a good leader, you always have to learn. The other thing you touched on for good leader is I don't know. You have to be able to say, I don't know.
That's hard, right? Like even if I think of, we all have different experiences and stuff. I think for me that was really hard to ever admit that you don't know something. And I think once you um, have the courage to be able to admit it and be comfortable with it, it's so empowering. Like it's this huge weight off of your shoulders. And it's kind of like, again, another saying, Abraham Lincoln once said that if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember multiple versions of the story or what you had told.
Yeah.
So if you actually can tell someone like you don't know, it's very, the weight's off your shoulders.
It's
Um,
freeing.
and you go find out, you go figure out. And
Right.
sometimes you can't, but that's fine. You work with others that could maybe help you, or maybe they take the ball from there and take it.
You're
And
furred on.
it's,
Yeah. It's not me, it's someone else. I love it. And I love that you said that because everyone I've talked to about, I don't know. And I felt this way as well. And it took me a long time to get to, I don't know, like whoosh, years,
yeah,
but it's so freeing to be able to say, I'm not sure about that. Let me get back to you
yeah,
and go craft, find it out, figure it out versus holding myself to the expectation that I had to come up with an answer on the spot.
yeah. And if you think about it, there's really not, of course, it depends on the company culture, but there's
Yeah.
not really too many situations where you have to know right now. And that's the other thing too, right? I think as we grow up, or even like if we look at our experiences going through school and stuff, we think we have to know the spot answer right away. In
Right
our
away.
education system, that's the way they teach us, right? You study, you study,
Yeah.
so you take a test. At one point in time, you know the answers,
Yep.
and sometimes it's more of the journey or the experience where you have to
Yeah.
go and learn for yourself, or really put in the effort to go find out later.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, greatest lesson always be learning. We've talked a little bit about it, but tell us how you applied this to your success.
Um, yeah. So if I think of my own background, like I'm a transportation operations person. It's in my DNA. I love it. It's like my personal or professional love affair.
Mhm.
Absolutely love it. But if um, I remember once, I was transitioning to a new team and I was getting involved in customer returns. So
Mhm.
well, it's not surprising, but I think if, people really understood the size of the percent of sales for purchases online that get returned, it's actually quite shocking.
Oh, it's a lot.
So
I'm going to throw a number at you that's going to blow your mind. At Nordstrom, it was 70%.
yeah, well, I can think of a lot of people that are where they would be pretty happy with what they think is a high rate if they knew that. So,
Shoes and dresses. So, anyway, but yes, go ahead.
So anyway, I was, I'd been about roughly about that 2 year mark after I'd been at Amazon. My stocks were starting to vest. So I did all those things that everybody does. A really stupid decision. And I took
You buy the big car?
my first block. I didn't buy the car. Instead, we went on a vacation, cruise on the Eastern Mediterranean.
Ah,
So I had kind of, this is about
you climbed on the hamster wheel and you started running.
it's so I had timed it in such a way that I was taking this vacation where I was transitioning to a new team. So it was like a nice cut. And the
Yeah.
person
You
I
had
was
it all timed out. It was
applying
all good.
said like, well, if you're going to be in Italy, why don't you just go up to Germany and for a couple weeks? And keep in
Oh,
mind,
they ever
like,
thought back then, "Oh, while you're on vacation, why don't you just work a little bit?"
well, so they weren't asking me to work, but like I was already over there. So why not just
Yeah. Yeah.
drive 500 miles north or whatever it is?
Yeah.
This was the first time I had ever traveled international, with the exception of, say, going up to Canada. So, and this is in Italy, middle of August. I didn't book tickets ahead of time. Good luck trying to buy a train ticket, a plane ticket, any kind of ticket in Italy, getting out of Italy in the month of August. The whole
Yeah.
country takes, like, that's the almost
It's
the
vacation.
official vacation time that everybody takes off.
For all of Europe, by the way, August, you can't get shit done.
Well, so anyway, I got up there or whatever, and I really didn't know what customer returns was all about. So I remember showing up in this fulfillment center in Bad Hersfeld was the name of the town it was in,
Mm,
dead center of Germany. There, about
mm,
I want to say about an hour northeast of Frankfurt.
mhm.
And so I explained to them, "Hey, I'm new to the team. I'm here to learn." Well, it turned out this facility had an 8-month backlog in processing we're still processing returns from Christmas, but they
Holy shit.
and look, I'm not trying to be critical here, but the
I know.
decisions that they had made was that they were focusing on cost and operations. And so
Outbound and inbound and
they
all that
had
stuff,
put
yeah.
together a plan of here's how many people we're going to have, and they're going to work their 8 hours a day. And
Yep.
Germany can be a little bit challenging with labor in the first place because they have these workers' councils and
Yeah.
different work rules and such. But I just remember like walking in there, having no idea what I was doing, and then trying to figure out from people that probably spoke English better than a lot of people in Europe, but still,
Not
I
great.
really pay attention to what people were saying and learning.
Mhm.
And so from all that, it just it took a couple of years, but we were able to like stop doing stupid things and being able to take like a 30% recovery rate, meaning stuff that's
Nice.
returned, and being able to sell it back at full price, and
Yeah.
increase that up to like 80, 85%, which was huge, huge money. And then
Yeah.
only just applying that to this one fulfillment center, but then start applying it to the other one that's in the country. Go over to France,
Yeah.
go up to the UK, come back to the US, and it was actually the hardest was to convince in the US buildings to start changing some of their grading standards and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's about always tweaking, looking at
Learning.
what's going on. Had a really great senior leader that to this day I will always be eternally grateful for. But he would sit and talk about like turning over the rocks and watching the cockroaches come out. So I spent a lot of time watching cockroaches, you know,
Who was
scraping,
that? Who was
doing.
the cockroach? Who was the cockroach?
That was
Who?
pretty sure.
That was Big G?
Yeah, Big G did that. Like to this day, I will be eternally grateful for that man. I mean, it just he had like a couple little nuances like that to
Yeah.
stay very near and dear to my heart.
I think the best I gotta get G on here. At least his greatest lesson. But the biggest thing I learned from G that stuck with me from G was, by the way, I was the only one who called him G and Big G. That was my privilege. But I did earn it. I earned it. But the biggest thing I learned from G was the mental model. Your mental model is broken. Like he would say that all the time, and he would be right. Like, and what he meant is like you're thinking about it wrong. Your mental model is broken, and that's the biggest. And fire in the belly. That's the other one I picked up from him. And they both I still actually apply all the time.
Yeah, I think the other thing that Garish was really good at doing too is he would change his communication style with different people, and he actually was really good at being able to match it to what was most effective to that person. So if you had like a young software engineer from India, it'd be a very, very different way that he would communicate to that person. But it's how that person needed to understand what was going on. Whereas with like I think myself, we were really focusing on like how to increase the utilization in these trucks, or some people might call it load factor.
Mhm.
And he kind of went off on this tangent about, like if you build in every single square inch in that truck. What would be the capacity? Have that be your baseline versus what you put in
Yeah.
there. But in the industry, we're thinking like, okay, I can get 60 pounds into a
I can
truck,
only get 80%. Like, why are we planning for 100?
utilize. Oh, reality, it's probably close to like maybe 78 or 80. Like
Yeah.
I just remember in the Monday morning WBRs that was my NBA, by the way, as far as those 2 years with him and
Oh, yeah, totally.
dealing with those or enduring those. But I just remember being very super, super patient with me and trying to walk me through as to how he was thinking. But here I am being ignorant and stupid, thinking like, you can only put 60 pallets in the truck. And
'Cause Garish was very good at challenging that, like, 'cause in the import, I had one small advantage, is that no one knew the industry that I came from. So, they could only push me so far because ultimately my expertise trumped. But Garish was very good at that, at setting a stretch goal, and that's what Marco Netto was doing that then, we were all setting stretch goals, and I still do that today. As an example, like, my goals are always 100% pre-clearance on customs.
yeah, and that's not always in your control, right?
Yeah, and people are like, "Well, you'll never get 100%, Kim. There's always gonna be, like, an OGA or a PGA or whatever, and la, 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 la," and I'm like, "It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The goal is
Customs or
100%."
air fish and wildlife always have the right to you're even selected for random inspection, right?
It doesn't change the goal.
Yeah.
That was what we learned from G, is doesn't you don't stop striving for 100%.
And the beauty of that is that that's really, if you can really embrace that mindset, or if you can help your teams embrace that mindset, that's really where the magic happens. It's really when you're able to, like, I think of like Mark Netto, he was kind of pushing principles around lean or about
Yeah,
Six Sigma. That's where I learned about like a Five Sigma. All
yeah,
deliveries 99.4% of the time.
yeah.
But previously that, like, that would never, like, I never even thought that could ever happen. It was never ever practical, but it was that culture at the time. Start
Setting that yeah.
think of like Mike Basker, and like Mike really, really pushed that hard. And
Mhm.
it was, if you don't really push hard or if you don't shoot for the moon, you'll never
You'll
get there.
never get there.
Used to people now is like, we're not doing moonshots. We're going for Mars. And if
Yeah,
fail miserably and only get as far as the moon,
you
we're like
still land on the stars, babe.
we're like one of two or three countries that only been to the moon then, right? We're equal
Yeah,
to
yeah. It's the old saying is shoot for the moon. If you miss, at least you land on the stars.
yeah.
But when I have in my consulting business and working with company after company after company after company, I always bring this 100% goal with me and I always get pushback. I always get, that's not possible. I'm like, how do you know?
And then that kind of goes back to like, if like always being the leadership principle of Amazon will always be right. If you're not constantly digging and looking and
I'm
presenting,
learning.
new information will come. And the funny thing is the world changes on you. You make a you may have the perfect plan today, but it's only good for that one moment of time because there are so many external forces that are like, kind of working against you, maybe to
Yeah,
where you have
are
to
with you.
adjust or things need to change. Go back to the beginning of COVID, like everyone was actually go back during COVID. Everybody in the industry was feeling pretty good. I remember hearing people making comments about finally the world's embraced e-commerce,
E-commerce.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then once things settled down and people were getting out, what happened?
they go back.
Everybody knows that it actually probably ruined a lot of really good companies, like companies that have been around for a long time, unfortunately.
Yeah, it did. It took out a few for sure.
And instead of like embracing, like, always be observing what's going on, adjust,
Always be learning.
static, nothing static, whatever is happening today, it will change. And
Yeah.
and it's very uncomfortable for us as human beings because we're always seeking safety, and change
Yep.
is actually very or the opposite of that.
Yeah, what we want.
Seeking like my poor wife, I feel she when she passed away, they probably should saint her actually. But
Oh,
like I'm always trying to change or do something different. I mean,
yep.
it drives her nuts. She's actually really good about it now, but it's
Yeah.
it's not comfortable. And I think it's the same thing for people. Like everyone, like we just want to get this. program or this system or this company to the point to where we're steady, we're consistent.
Yeah. And we can relax.
No,
We
what
can lean back is what it's like. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you look at really great companies,
They
really,
never do
really
that.
great companies that constantly change. Thank goodness,
Yeah.
take a company like Amazon, right? Thank goodness
Yeah.
they're just selling books.
Yeah.
They probably have more of these server farms out there than anybody else in the world. You take a look. You take a look at a company like Apple. Thank
Yeah.
goodness they're not still making the A2. You know,
Yeah.
now they're making these phones that everybody carries in their pockets everywhere.
Yeah. Great examples, Derek. Wonderful sharing your greatest lesson with us. Always be learning. You've given us so many examples of where you are always learning and how you have applied that continually to your career. It's one of the biggest things. We also touched on some of the leadership traits that I touch on all the time. I don't know. Being curious, admitting that you don't know. It's a super powerful thing. Try it out. It's try it, I don't know, in the mirror and see how it feels. But we highly suggest that you do that. Derek, thanks for being here and sharing your story, and we will have you back in the future to tell more about what you built at Amazon as part of our Architect series.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and for what it's worth, Cam, I can't even tell you how thankful I am for you, especially when I was in the early part of my career.
Oh, thank you so much.
There were a
I
couple.
think
I remember a couple times I was frustrated. I didn't know you very well. I come in and talk to you, and you were kind enough to stop from your busy day and share some thoughts. And your opinions were always, I don't want to say irreverent, but they were kind of sassy. Maybe I don't know if that's the right word. Whereas everyone's trying to be polished and professional.
oh,
You were just
yeah.
like, here's what you gotta do. Think of this. This is stupid. You're thinking. It was like really direct, and
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
Good. I am glad. Thank you for saying that. It always touches me when people bring that stuff up because I don't remember when I'm nice. I only remember when I'm nasty. Uh, so it's nice that people remind me that maybe I was nice at one point. But yeah, but that was a frustrating time. I talked to somebody else about this at Amazon. It was Tiana Simmons and I have been recording, and we were talking about, like, there was no time to discuss tone at Amazon, right? There was like, if you had time to worry about a tone, you didn't have enough work to do.
Yeah, and to Amazon's credit, I think a lot of that has changed,
Yeah.
and thank goodness it has.
Yeah.
But yeah, back in those days, it was almost kind of expected that if you're to be a leader, that you would be like a yeller or a screamer. But it was probably one of the as a company for Amazon, they probably had to learn and go through that, and again, be presented with new information, find
Yeah.
just and to Amazon's credit, they're actually a really,
They evolve.
really great company.
They
Uh,
are.
they they will be if 500 years from now, there
Yeah.
will always be a chapter on the history of business, something to do with what Jeff and the Amazon company there.
100%. Love Amazon, never bashing Amazon. I made it clear in my podcast early on. This is not an Amazon bashing podcast. I think Amazon has done amazing things. The culture was a little fucked up in the beginning, but they're working on it.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of companies that are great.
And stay the same thing. Yeah, early stories about Apple, Microsoft, they all got it. It's part of the startup and it's part of what the culture was back then. That's just how things were done.
Yeah.
You live and learn.
Yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right. Yep. All right. Thank you, my people, for being here. I haven't come up with a name for my audience. I think I'm going to call y'all my Moody's. So thank you, my Moody's, for being here today at our podcast. I have to come up with a name. I got a little fan base now. I think I'm going to call my Moody's. And thank you, Derek, for sharing your greatest lesson. And we will talk to you again soon.